When I started out doing events, I started doing them for brands, and so the rules were just different.
For the very first episode of Movers and Shakers podcast, we have none other than the legendary Ron Simpson.
So whenever, the Miley Cyrus or a Pharrell Williams or a Tiny Tempa or whenever they were in town, they would just always show up.
As a master of concept creation and storytelling, Ron knows how to transform bold ideas into thriving businesses.
Digital marketing or traditional promotion?
Digital marketing.
Jimmy Who or Supper Club?
And of course, he left with an amazing recommendation.
First of all, I think the most clever book ever written about the music industry.
Subscribe now to Movers and Shakers podcast on Spotify and check the very first episode. Peace.
Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast. Ron Simpson, super cool to have you here.
Thank you.
Ron is a master concept creator, viral marketing, brand building and storytelling legend. And he's also famous for his iconic Jimmy Who event, Please Don't Tell. And yeah, we're super excited to hear more about it in this episode at the Movers and Shakers podcast for the next 30 minutes.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Super exciting to have you. So can you tell me a bit more about how you see the event in the music industry and specifically from a brand building point of view?
As a whole?
Yeah, go
I think there's something really beautiful about both music and events. I think they're originally made to have fun and to make people happy and to have a good time. And
Nice.
And out of that, I think a lot of really cool things happen. So everyone I know that ever did events always has the same stories. Like people found love there, people, made best friends there and blah, blah. So that's all the good stuff that comes out of there. And then if you do all of those things right, you can actually, make some decent money and do some really cool shit. And so my vision on that is I think there are really some events that really set the bar, that really are an example for the rest of the world. These unforgettable moments, these amazing things you look up to and you can't wait to go and see them. You buy tickets 6 months up front, those type of events. But I also think that there are thousands and thousands of almost everyday events that we love to fill our lives with. And those can be in the music industry and those can be in nightlife, but those also involve really good restaurants and foods and brands and art galleries. And there's this whole world of just having fun with music on. That's a good thing.
Super cool, man. I think in general, it's about the experience that you mean.
Yeah. And also, how does it make you feel? What do you remember the next day? And what is going on? Like, what is the actual experience of this thing?
Oh.
Like, you can play music at home. Why would you go out? Well,
Exactly.
because there's other people there and there's better drinks and maybe there's new music or something that you can't reach or something or someone you want to see. So it's always fun. Yeah.
So how did you really combine that notion of an experience within an event into your own events? Like how do you see that?
Well, I have a big resume when it comes to working with really cool and big brands, and they often do all types of either activations or their own events or whatever. And working with, I used to work at Bacardi for years and years, and I mean, I don't know if you've ever been to a Bacardi party, but those are legendary, and it's just different because when a person or an entrepreneur does an event or a promoter, then of course it's also for fun, but there's a business model behind it and it needs to work. And the business model of brand events usually is not the event. They use the event to raise awareness or whatever, and then the sales come afterwards somewhere else in a different channel. So it's really designed to be the best experience you can have, something worth talking about, something worth sharing, something to look out for, something original and unique that they can do. So when I started out doing events, I started doing them for brands. And so the rules were just different because it wasn't about making money on the event. It was about creating value at the event, which is a completely different thing. And so the branding and the marketing and the concepting and the decor and absolutely everything is not based on making money at the door, which gives you, a little bit more freedom actually, because I mean, it's not like it's limitless budget, but there's more budget than usual to work hard and make this unique experience. So that's where it started for me. I think, doing events with Red Bull was amazing. I mean, they do these fantastic, memorable things. And then later on, you start visiting things, and they don't always have to be really big. So I was like at openings of galleries, or when your favorite clothing brand. I don't know if you've ever been to like a Daily Paper party or a Filling Pieces party or something. It's like, that's amazing. The whole culture comes out, and it's party. And as soon as you understand this whole invite only thing, where it's not about tickets, that's some discipline and skill that you can learn. And then the other side is, how do you sell tickets and how do you actually make things? So I came from one and I went to the other. And I think that's how I started. I was like, all these cool brand events and activations and festivals, I want to have that feeling with those people every week. I want to, upgrade wherever I'm going, because otherwise it's just like, oh, they have a cool event, and then every Friday night we go out, and then it's like medium, and then we go back. So I was like, no, how do we get that vibe into a weekly place where everyone can go? Yeah.
And then that turned into Please Don't Tell.
Yeah, that became Please Don't Tell. Please Don't Tell was actually the first real like weekly concept that we did. And the fun part is like, I think we did it absolutely backwards from everyone. Like usually when you start doing an event, it's like, okay, who do we want there, and who do we want as DJs in the lineup, and who do we, and we started out like, we need the best name in the world.
Let's go.
And then that best name needs the best branding we can find. And then we don't want anyone in there. We want our friends in there. So how do we make sure all the marketing and all the content really speaks to this group specifically? And then how do we invite all of them? And then once they're there, can we convince some brands to give them some cool shit? Because why not? And then, we really started. And then somewhere at the end, it was like, oh yeah, what kind of music are we going to play? Like, who's playing? And it was funny. So we did it the other way around. And I think that's interesting. And I think that was very innovative for that time. I mean, now it's normal, but back then it was kind of special. And yeah, I think we did well.
Do you still remember the first event you hosted for Please Don't Tell? Can you talk me through the night? Like, what was it like?
Well, the first event is always an interesting one, because a lot of people get nervous about the first event, but for me, it was the easiest one. Like, when something is new, it's easy to sell. When something is new, you invite absolutely everyone you know. And I think Jimmy Woo, officially probably fits 600, but I think, 750 has been done before. Yeah. And so we just over-invited. Yeah. We knew the guest list was too big. We knew all of that. And so to create the sense of urgency, we just said, fuck it, just go and invite as many relevant people as we can find. And so I think we had a guest list of like 1,200 or something, which meant, chaos at the door, but that's content. It meant some people were too late. It was just full. And so, yeah, that's annoying, but that also creates this urgency of, okay, next week I'm going to be on time. Oh. Because there was this whole thing in Amsterdam as well, where going out kept becoming later. People would come in at 2 and that was like normal. But we wanted, the full space. I wanted them to be there at 11. So how do you get someone early? So you have to do cool stuff. And so I remember doing that. I remember all of it was like a birthday. All of our friends were there. We invited also a lot of people from our network, which were either, famous or fun or whatever. So they were there as well. And the funny part was we treated it like something special, right? The first one, the opening, is always a special thing, like the 2-year anniversary or whatever. So we had the balloons and we had the cake and we had the content and we had the photo booth and we had the blah, 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 all of it. And then after the first one, we were like, every edition needs to be like this. This is exactly what we were looking for. Like the energy of an opening one or an anniversary one, that should be weekly. How do we do that? How do we find the budget to get even simple stuff like, balloons and photo booths every time? That costs money. How do we convince DJs that are way too expensive for this business model to play anyway? There's only one way to do that. They need to have fun. Oh. And so we started facilitating having fun. Like even I used to be a DJ before, and even then, you know, they always ask you, what's your rider? What do you want to drink? Blah, blah. But when you get there, usually it's done poorly. You get your bottle and it's good luck. You know what I mean? But like, we were like, no, we need really good ice and really good limes, and really ask what they want to drink. And not just what spirit do you drink, but like what do you mix it with? Even if they didn't have it in the club, we'll go and get it for you, you know? So we put everyone in through the back door, so there was no bullshit with that. We just make sure everyone was comfortable and having fun. And then we went out and got the very best party photographers this city has, and not one, but multiple. And then we briefed them like, we need a new content style. I want everyone that's been to this party to receive pictures that they will actually use. You know, the briefing was shoot their profile pic. So instead of everyone like really posing and laughing, we were shooting it like a wedding. So candid shots, really interesting, very cool, like filtering and After Effects, and it was great. It was really good.
It sounds like you took the full part of the experience you used and learned in the previous life, let's say, and really really made sure that every single Friday night was an experience in itself.
Yeah.
And then the viral marketing component triggered the effect of like, okay, well, we need to go here every week, every time. And then...
Yeah, so a lot of people think that the idea is to have the same people in every week. That was never the idea. Because I was just looking at myself. I was the target audience, right? So I was like, I'm not going anywhere every week. I have shit to do.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to get them every week, the idea was for them to understand that they were welcome every week, that this was always there, like a clubhouse. Like whenever you want, Friday night's always good there. So if I have another event or a birthday party or I'm out of town, whatever, that's fine. But the Fridays that I'm free, I'm going there. And if you think of it that way, then you don't need 750 people to come every week. You need like maybe times 4. So you're like, we need a 3,000 people group understanding that they want to go here. And then you're full always, even though it could be a week where there's a big festival, so you lose a certain type of audience, but then the rest will come in. So I think that was a very interesting way to approach it, and really find how that works. Like the viral marketing aspect were the people. You know, we didn't really do stunts. We were just like, if everyone believes all the fun and cool people are there, you're going to go. And I believe there are 2 ways of doing an event like this. One is the concert model, and one is like, well, we call it the Kroegenhal, right? Like the bar model, the clubhouse model. And the concert model, which I love, but it's just very hard to do on such a high frequency. So to me, that means you find an artist that everyone wants to see relevant. Relevant right now, you give them the stage they need. So not just a DJ booth, they need, you know, the lights and whatever they need. And then everyone comes in and watches the act, right? Now, these acts are typically more expensive, and they're cool, but it feels like a concert. So, and a lot of people were doing like, yeah, we got this DJ, you really need to come. And I was like, nah. I think the most attractive thing we have is who's inside. So if we can just guarantee that we have all the models and all the athletes and all the musicians and all the artists and then like all of that, I think that's more important than who plays. Not that music wasn't important. It was always good music, but we kept it close to our hearts. We booked the DJs we really liked and that were close to us, not whatever was hot at that moment. So we had a very steady sound, and you went there no matter who played. That was the idea.
Super smart. So whenever you went to Please Don't Tell on a Friday night, you knew that there was a 100% guarantee that you weren't going to be disappointed by the night.
Exactly.
And that the word of mouth marketing was by far the strongest.
Yeah.
And who are you most proud of having attended that Friday night? Like what kind of superstar were you like, damn, when he entered the club, like, or she?
Well, we had a lot. Honestly, I mean, we can't take all the credit for that because Jimmy Woo at that time was such a hot club. And also, Amsterdam is like I always say it's a world village. A lot of people name it in the same sentence as like London or Paris, but I mean, we're very tiny compared to that. So there's not that much to do. So if you're a superstar in town, where do you go, right? So back then it was literally Jimmy Woo, Friday Night PDT. Now you have options. You can go to Do Not Disturb, or you can go like wherever you want. But back then it was different, and so I'm pretty sure we literally had every Dutch star in the country. I can't think of anyone who hasn't been. So we had all the cool actors and all the cool, whatever. But the fun part is they were also friends. So when you run into Monica Geus or Ahmed Akabi or Lil Klein or Ronnie Flex or whatever, they were just there having fun with their friends. It wasn't like there's an appearance by someone. No, they were all there. At certain points, we had like 50 to 100 of these on one night, which was very interesting. And then that was known also to a lot of people who never came, like the hotel concierges and these type of people. So whenever, the Miley Cyrus or a Pharrell Williams or a Tiny Tempa or, whatever, whenever they were in town, they would just always show up because no one knew where else to send them also because this was the only thing making waves, which was fun. So yeah, Jimmy did a good job. I think we did a good job as well. It was great.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's now time for the next part of the podcast, which revolves around the dilemmas.
Okay.
So I'm gonna have 6 different dilemmas for you, and you need to choose one.
Let's go.
Afterwards, you can maybe talk about a couple, but in the moment, make sure to choose them.
First we shoot 6, and then we get to
Exactly.
discuss.
Yeah.
Okay.
So fast decision making.
Yeah.
Number 1: Friday night or Saturday morning?
Friday night.
Branding or activation?
Branding.
Digital marketing or traditional promotion?
Digital marketing.
Brand loyalty or new audiences?
Brand loyalty.
To be 25 years old or 35 years old?
35 for sure.
Jimmy Who or Supper Club?
Jimmy.
Let's go. Nice. That was fast.
Yeah.
I did well. Do you want to elaborate on?
Yeah, and I also want to change one. I think I chose branding over activation.
Yeah.
But I think there's no activation without good branding, so I'll take activation. Why is that? Yeah, I think Supper Club is doing an amazing job, but like my roots are really at the Jimmy Woo. That's the baby where it all happened. So that was an easy one. I think activations are more memorable than branding. Branding should actually almost be camouflage in a way. It should just feel so natural that you put it in your mind and subconsciously remember it. But activations are actively remembering. So I think that's very interesting. Friday night over Saturday morning, every day of the week.
Easy choice.
Choice, yeah. What else was there?
Brand loyalty or new audiences?
Oh yeah, brand loyalty or new audiences. I think new audiences are very interesting when you do scaled events, when it's big, and you're really looking to expand your brand. But I think there's a lot of those. I really love the whole community aspect of brand loyalty. We call it brand loyalty, but for me, it's more like community thing. A group of people that have cohesion together and really have like a long period of time together. That creates real friendship. You know what I mean? So I think that's very dope.
And on a personal level, the 25 versus 35 years old, you were very stellar in the 35-year-old answer.
Yeah,
Why is
absolutely. Because I think I was having hella fun when I was 25. But how do I say this? I would take anything I could find, right? So it's like, what can I do? What can I do? Where can I go? At 35, your options are way better. Usually you earn a little bit more, you travel a bit more, you know who you are better, So the events I visited at 35 were way better than the events I visited when I was 25, simply because of access.
Makes sense. So finish this sentence. In my last decade of organizing events, I learned that the most important thing
are people.
Okay.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, like, you could have the coolest club with all the lights and all the bottles and all the whatever you want. But if your friends aren't there, you're not staying. And you could have a real shitty bar with one speaker that sort of works and all your friends are there, you're staying all night.
Oh.
So you can dress up everything you like, but I like to dress up a group of friends. I like to cater to them. Like, it's only interesting to add all of these decor effects or whatever if the people are there together. So that was it for me. The thing is, that's not really scalable. I mean, you can't do a festival with 30,000 friends, right? It doesn't work that way. But that to me is a different business. It's a different model. It's a different beast by itself. But if you do these small, weekly, impactful, memorable, generational things, like there's a whole generation that just grew up with us in the club, and that's cool because it's also meant to be over at a certain point. And now they're doing it all over again. Like Please Don't Tell is back at the Jimmy Woo. Samuel and the team are doing an amazing job, and there's a whole new generation having years of fun to come. So it's cool.
Super cool, man. And if you're looking at like the next generation of entrepreneurs, many of them are also watching this episode right now.
Yeah.
What would you say to like the 25-year-old Ron? Like what with your experience, with what you know now, is there anything you would do differently or that you would advise on?
I think for the next generation, I'm going to say some old people shit. Slow down. Slow down and try to understand what it's really about. Like, we already as a generation had we were driven by content and we were, all of that stuff. But a lot of times when I see parties now, it's again with these either coming in late, leaving early, or doing 3 parties a night. It's all about content. It's all about TikTok. It's all about these things. And I really love all of those things. But I think if you can get people to slow down and be happy in one place for one whole night and have those nights where they almost forget to take pictures because they're having too much fun, that is where longevity and value lives. It's easy making something that's shareable. I mean, you put a little sparkle on a bottle and someone films it. It's not that hard. But I think if you find the power to slow down time, that everyone is just having fun where they are, that's the tip I would give.
Beautiful. And then in terms of a favorite book, you would...
There's so many.
Which ones are your favorites? And especially maybe for the event and music industry, like learning how to bring people or move people on a massive scale, or like the marketing tips and tricks?
Well, there's a few things. First of all, I think the most clever book ever written about the music industry is the book by Donald Passman. I think it's called Everything You Need to Know About the Music Industry. And I think that book is like 20-something years old, but every year they update it. So when he wrote it, it was still vinyl records and that kind of stuff. And then those became MP3, and then those became stream, and then those became whatever. And they keep updating the book, which is really interesting. And it just breaks down absolutely everything. How does music work? How does publishing work? How does making money with music work? How does this and that work? So I've always thought that was a brilliant thing. Just like, back in the day, Kanye West put out these records that he would update on Spotify. He would just put a new version in, that kind of stuff. So I thought that was very clever as a book. I really don't want to name all the classics that everyone is going to name. So how about I switch it up and not a book, but I have a documentary for you to see.
Tell me.
A must see. It's called Supermensch. It's about Shep Gordon. Shep Gordon was the craziest artist manager ever. We're talking this story involves really big stuff like Pink Floyd and Alice Cooper, but also like the Rolling Stones, the Dalai Lama, absolutely everything you can't imagine. And he was actually mostly responsible for really marketing rock and roll. So he was the guy that came up for Teddy Pendergrass to do women-only concerts, no men allowed. He was the guy that bought a cannon to shoot, I think, Ozzy Osbourne out of it, and then that didn't work, so he sold it to the Rolling Stones and all these things. But he really explains on how to get people excited for something, for music or for events or for an artist or whatever. It's one of the coolest documentaries I have ever seen in my life. Ever. I don't think anyone can top that thing, so definitely watch that. It's fun, it's memorable, it's inspiring, it's everything.
Nice. And where do you see the event industry headed? I mean, we've spoken a lot about your past, how you've really organized some of the wildest events in the past 10, 15 years. What kind of trends do you see in for any future events?
Well, I see a lot of trends going on right now. I mean, obviously the digitalization of a lot of things, right? Not just music, but also decor, lighting, all this stuff that's really going next level. I like that. I love the whole, weird kind of music thing where they play the pyramids and then they play a jungle and then they play whatever. I think those are memorable experiences. And then they take all the tech away, which I also love, right? So either you have like the most techie place in the world with all screens and lasers and fireworks or whatever, or you just say, well, we have the pyramids and there's a DJ booth and that's enough, So that also works. So I think that's very interesting. People are visually looking at events more than they used to. I also see a trend where the branding and activations really get better. So some of them aren't. I mean, it's just, here's an activation. We built an extra area and we called it the stage. Okay, whatever. But you also see these really clever stages where they use tech and a product to really make something that you've never seen before. I really like that. I really love collaborative creation instead of just putting logos on things and putting drinks out. So I really look forward to that. I think there's some really cool brands doing some really cool things. There's a lot of international stuff coming here, like, well, we just named Kind of Music, but also Circo Loco and all of these huge Ibiza things are coming and traveling the world like Sensation used to do. So I think you're going to see more of that, more like global phenomenons that are really moving. I think DJs are the size of artists now. I mean, been for a while, but even more now. So you're going to see way more one-offs, like almost concerts where they do the whole event. I think that's cool because then you can really extend the brand of the artist into the event, in the style, in the decos, in the designs, in the musical line. They'll play like 5 hours instead of, you have 1 hour and it starts like this and it ends with a time-coded show and blah, blah, blah. No, a real DJ would love to play for 5 hours, I think, and just, you get to know them better. It's you get to discover music. I think that's really dope. So for the fans, it's a really good time. Yeah.
Nice. Super cool. What would be cool to ask you is, you're Mr. Marketing. I would love to see you as like a human ChatGPT for a moment.
Oh God. Okay.
And think of the audience. Maybe there's some 20-year-old guy or girl.
Yeah.
He or she wants to start his or her own event concept. They want to obviously start with some smaller group of people and then scale slowly.
Yeah.
What would you name the concept and why?
Well, that's a really good question, but you need way more variables to answer. So I think the first thing is, why do you want to throw a party? And then you already know it. So there's people that want to make money with it. There's people that want to have the time of their lives. And there's people that want to service and facilitate a group of people, like a community type of thing. That already is part of branding for me. So you need to make a choice there. After that, you say a lot of people want to start with a small group and then scale it up. I think there's also a lot of people who would just want to keep it small and just, that group only. So there you need to make a choice. Are you going to need a brand that will appeal to 50,000 people? Or are you going to need a brand that those 1,000 people love, that they get it, the language, the lingo, it's all good. So there's all these choices that you have to make. And so if you would do something like that, I would find a word that's timeless and classic, that can stand the time, that can even change musical genres if you have to. Let's say your event lasts 10 years or 15 years. It might, need some innovation while it exists. So it's that. I also think it's something, that should be fun to say. Like some of these event names, I'm never pronouncing that. I'm never saying that out loud to anyone. You know what I mean? So it should have something fun. The branding of that should be easy in content. It should be part of how people speak. And please don't tell was dope, but it ended up being PDT. Hey, PDT this Friday. Yeah, let's go. And so, but we already knew that. So we already made the PDT logo as well. Besides, please don't tell, because it's long. So I think if you were to make a concept right now, and then you have to pick a musical genre as well. You know what? Pick a genre. Pick
House.
these three things. House music.
House music.
Small or large?
Large.
Large. And what for? Making like a commercial, making money company, or
Yeah, it's a commercial company.
it's a commercial company.
You want to do large-scale events at some point within the house music space. Can also transcend the Netherlands, go into Belgium, England, wherever.
Yeah. So I really like sentences that capture time. And I think house and large events have the power to constantly engage you. So I would start, usually I write like a sentence down, and then I would look for the words that come with it. And in this case, I would choose never a dull moment, because that's something everyone in the world knows and wants. And you can find an acronym for that, or you can find a way to put that in there. But it's a promise. You know what I mean?
The NADM community, never a dull moment.
Yeah, or Nadumo or whatever. There's ways of making that
Nadumo,
into
nice.
into something cool. And what I also think is that things that sound weird in the beginning can be really unique. So even though don't put vibe, party, club, or whatever of these words anywhere. Just pick something funny.
Same as with Please Don't Tell, PDT. I mean, it's an abbreviation, so you don't know what PDT stands for anyway.
Exactly.
But it's the vibe that encompasses the branding and the feeling you get from being there.
Yeah.
So it's not about having the actual concept, have a name that transcends.
Yeah, we were looking for this feeling. Like, Please Don't Tell was a very like sexy, adventurous, fun party. It wasn't just another bar where you go and they play music. It was like we had the lights very low. I think we even had a candlelight edition in a club. You know what I mean? Like there was always a certain romance about the place. So we wanted that to be there. We wanted all your fun secrets and good times that you wouldn't tell anyone else. Only your best friends. That was the whole captivating thing about that name. I think that's why it worked. But something like that is interesting. I really love names like No Art. Even Kind of Music actually has a name. It's super interesting. Like, this is not music. You know what I mean? It's no music. So this whole anti-stuff, I love it.
Works.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in 10 years we have the Never a Dull Moment movement, and they need to come back to us. And
why not?
See
Let's
what
have some
happens.
fun. Yeah.
It's already been 30 minutes.
Wow.
So time flies.
When you're having
fun, exactly.
I remember that, yeah.
And you took the podcast virginity. So it's the first episode.
I popped that cherry.
Yeah, which means that you don't have a question from the previous guest.
Okay.
But you are able to ask a question to the next guest. And the next guest is Bram van Stiphout. He's the founder of Dipshit.
I love Bram.
And Dipshit has sold out every single event.
Tuesdays.
Every Tuesdays, exactly. But also throughout the Netherlands in the past 2.5 years. And they're massively popular on TikTok among the Gen Z generation, where they have approximately 80,000 followers.
Yeah.
So what would you like to ask Bram in the next episode?
I really love what they do. I love his energy. He's such a cool guy. I would ask Bram, what is the one ingredient that Dipshit has for this new generation that is not a classic that the previous generations used? So what is that one secret trick, secret sauce, whatever, that only Gen Z gets? What is it?
Super cool. Thanks a lot, man.
You're welcome, man.
See you in the next one.